which is chapter number 20. And the paragraph we're reading from is, during the rainy season, many small ponds, lakes, and rivulets. Okay, so if everyone just wants to find that place, and then as usual, we'll read and then finish with the one round of japa. And then perhaps we can do that just to finish on 9 o'clock. As recent weeks we've started a little bit late with the japa. So hopefully more devotees can stay for that. So trust you're all ready with Krishna book and your japa beads. I'll begin with the introduction, invocation prayers. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Keshava, Krishna, Keshava, Krishna, Keshava, Pahimam. And we have Jai Prakash Prabhu who will start reading for us. Is that right? The place I said we're starting from during the rainy season?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Let's make a start. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. During the rainy season, many small ponds, lakes, rivulets become filled with water. Otherwise, the rest of the year, they remain dry. Similarly, materialistic persons are dry, but sometimes when they are in a so-called opulent position, with a home or children or little bank balance, they appear to be flourishing. But immediately afterwards, they become dry, like small rivulets and ponds. The poet Vidyapati said that in the society of friends, family, children, wife, etc., there is certainly some pleasure, but that pleasure is compared to a drop of water in the desert. Everyone is hankering after happiness, just as in the desert, everyone is hankering after water. If in the desert there's a drop of water, it may, of course, be said that water is there, but the benefit from that drop of water is very insignificant. In our materialistic way of life, which is just like a desert, we are hankering after an ocean of happiness. But in the form of society, friends, and mundane love, we are getting no more than a drop of water. Our satisfaction is never achieved, as the small rivulets, lakes, and ponds are never filled with water in the dry season.
So this chapter is actually full of many analogies which help us to understand Krishna consciousness in relation to the nature that we see around us in this world. Here's another example where there's a comparison being made. So would someone like to summarize this comparison between nature and philosophy? Feel free to have a guess.
Lives, we're like living on deserts, and we're all looking for happiness, which is compared to like water, but then the happiness that we get is only like a drop of water in the desert. So the water that the happiness that we get is very insignificant.
Yeah, that's it. So it's compared material way of life. Even if we have everything we could possibly want, then that's still compared to a drop of water. Now, and then the rest of the environment is like a desert. So we see that, isn't it, in the world, that people are always hankering for another drop, another drop, another drop. But it takes so much to make just that one drop. And what else do Does anyone else have any thoughts about this? Any other perspectives on this paragraph? How about in light of the world situation right now? People are in COVID and lockdown. Government's increasing restrictions. Tier 3, Tier 4 now, maybe Tier 5 even. So we still have all the things which we had before, essentially. The possessions that we have are still all there, more or less, isn't it? But what's being taken away?
Freedom.
Hmm?
Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. So material nature, people think of freedom in a very different way, isn't it? When people think of freedom, what do they think freedom means? What do they feel is being taken away? And have a guess. There's no like fixed answer. Prabhupada hints on some of these things here.
Freedom, in terms of material life, freedom to be able to go anywhere, to be able to do anything that they want to do, to be able to use money anywhere that can be used. But with the current situation now, we see that despite having loads of money, you still can't do what you would otherwise have done were things different. Despite having the best of health, you still can't probably, go to the gym or practice your what you otherwise would do. So despite having all the material things that one considers to be, a success in terms of material nature, or opulence in terms of the material world, it comes to nothing, because we have been imposed with the COVID situation, which is beyond our control, and none of the things which we do have can be used in the way which we would otherwise have used were the world free.
Yeah. So for those who just joined, we're discussing the first paragraph, which begins during the rainy season, in the chapter called Descriptions of Autumn, chapter 20. Yeah. Paragraph begins during the rainy season. Actually, I've just noticed many of the paragraphs begin with that. It's during the rainy season, many small ponds, lakes, and rivulets. So Panchali has just been explaining how material nature people feel a sense of freedom. So it's the ability to enjoy and control, be in control of their situation, the ability to do as you please, go as you please, come as you please. And that being taken away, people are feeling very restricted, isn't it? Bound up, locked down. Yeah. So here the comparison is made, as Lanisha said, to being in a desert. So just all of these things are just like a drop in the desert. So this isn't actually what we're looking for here. I was hearing a class recently, and there was an interesting point made about Krishna consciousness and why it may seem difficult at first, why it's difficult for people to come to spiritual life. And I thought that was interesting in connection to this. And Maharaj was speaking about how the people in the material world are not just in the desert, but they're in an oasis in the desert, where there's, like Prabhupada said, even if there is a drop of water, it says here, it's still just a drop of water, even if there is a little pool of water. It is just only a little pool in the middle of a whole desert. And so Krishna consciousness is about taking people away from that little oasis in the desert to real life, which is further afield. And so to do that, we have to remove ourselves from the oasis and walk through the desert. And so this early stages of Krishna consciousness is like that. People feel that there's a slight struggle in Krishna consciousness because we're going away from that little oasis in the desert, but we're going to like a place where there's flourishing rivers and forestry and the land of Vrindavan, where we get a real taste for life, spiritual life. Does that make sense? So initially Krishna consciousness seems like a struggle because we're going through a desert. We're going away from just the drops of water to Vrindavan. Does anyone else have any thoughts? We can continue reading. Jai Prakash Prabhu, you can continue reading.
Yeah. Due to rainfall, the grass, trees, and other vegetation look very green. Sometimes the grass is covered by a certain kind of red insect. When the green and red combine with the umbrella-like mushrooms, the entire scene changes. Just like a person who has suddenly become rich, the farmer then becomes very happy to see his field full of grain. But the capitalists, who are always unaware of the activities of a supernatural power, become unhappy because they are afraid of competitive price due to abundant production. In some places, certain capitalists in government restrict the farmers' production of grain, not knowing the actual fact that all the food grains are supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic injunction, Eko Bhavanam Yo Vidartha Kamam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains this creation. Therefore, he arranges for a supply of whatever is required for all living entities. When there is a population increase, it is the business of the Supreme Lord to feed the people. But atheists or miscreants do not like abundant production of food grains, especially if their business might be hampered.
So what comparison is being made here now with nature and the world we see around us? So nature and materialistic way of life. Did you catch that point? Just at the beginning it says about how grass is covered by Please don't be shy.
Certain kinds of red insects, and when the green and the red combine with the umbrella-like mushrooms, the scene changes, just like a nova-ish.
Yeah, so you would have normal grass, green grass, trees, vegetation which are very green, but that green color becomes covered over by these red, like red ants, you know? And then also things like mushrooms grow there. Of course, devotees don't eat mushrooms. Why is that? Why do devotees not eat mushroom? We don't, apart from just not eating apart from not eating meat only, we also don't eat certain vegetarian foods as well. Yeah, so onion, garlic, mushroom, tea, coffee. Yeah. So what is it about mushroom? Why is it that devotees don't eat mushroom?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, would it be because it's a fungus and it grows underground, like it's a bacteria, so it's quite living? It's quite a living organism, really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it grows underground. It tends to grow in places where there is like a mold, you know, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you say it's a fungus. So fungus is considered to be tamasic in nature, so in the mode
Is
of
it,
ignorance.
is it because it gives hallucinations? Mushrooms sometimes.
Some mushrooms do, yeah.
In terms of, so it gives a kind of high to certain people, if that's the right way, in want of a better word. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, there are certain mushrooms which are used in like recreational drugs, but they're even ordinary mushrooms, the ones you can buy in the supermarket, let's say. Then those ones are also considered to be in mode of ignorance because they grow in places where there's like rot or decay, you know. So they're born out of that. That's the atmosphere which they flourish. So, so the point here is that these red mushrooms, these red ants, they cover the green, lush environment and change the scene. And what is that compared to? Yeah, I had to really think about this one, so it's not easy to find. I personally struggled with this. I had to read it a couple of times earlier because there's lots of different people mentioned here. So there's farmers mentioned, capitalists. What else is mentioned? Atheists, miscreants, people in general. Supreme Personality Godhead is mentioned. Let's have another read. Who are these like these red ants and mushrooms? Who are they compared to? So the nature of the
Would it
mushrooms and
be,
the ants is to cover over nature's way, nature's doing.
would it be like the rich people he's talking about towards the end of the paragraph?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they, the atheists and miscreants who don't like abundance of foods, I'm not sure if he's comparing the ants to them, the insect and the ants.
yeah, yeah. So there's lots of groups of people mentioned. So yeah, basically those whose interest in life is capitalism, economic gain. They're compared to these kind of ants. And what does Prabhupada say about capitalists? Or that those who have a materialistic gain in life? What are they motivated by? What is it that they're trying to achieve?
Very much profit motivated, isn't it? And
Yeah,
the whole system of give and take. So how much you can take as opposed to how little you give.
yeah, that's right. So why do they control the production of grains and so on?
Create the atmosphere of it goes back to the basic economics of supply versus demand. So where if the demand is more than the supply, the prices would rise.
Yes.
And the capitalists can control the production by subduing the farmers and controlling as to how much they can actually release the grain. They can control the release of that grain into the market and manipulate the money, the money flow in the whole system to their benefit and to their profit.
Yeah, very nicely summarized. I can see some of you had like an aha moment there. I did as well when I read. Oh, that's what it means. Yeah, because Prabhupada covers many things in this short paragraph. But yeah, very nicely explained by Panchali. essentially that if they keep the supply low, then the prices will be high because the demand is high. Everybody needs food. But if they keep the supply artificially low, if they suppress food production, then they can increase the price. So is this a surprise to anyone? Is this like something you've not heard of before? You can be honest, you can say, yeah. I mean, who's heard of this kind of concept before? Governments and capitalists controlling food supply.
Hare Krishna, I've heard some harrowing stories about heaps of food just being burnt in Africa to keep prices up. Yeah, so essentially they just burn food because, yeah.
Shocking, isn't it?
Crazy, yeah, no, it's mad. Hare Krishna. My goodness, where?
Yeah. Burning food where people need it the most. I've heard in America they throw away tons of food into the ocean. In fact, they slaughter so many animals, and then of that stock which has been slaughtered, for one reason or another, there may be, like insignificant defects, and they throw all of that meat away in the ocean, dump it all in the ocean. So not only do they kill animals, and they also throw it away.
Wow.
So, and of course, the animals are feeding on the land, which could be used to feed people, which is a bigger problem. So Prabhupada Krishna gives us this comparison, because the food grains are coming from him. This is the lesson behind it. But actually, Krishna is the one who's providing all those grains, and we shouldn't waste the resources which Krishna is giving us in the world. So even though they may try, the capitalists are trying to control the price of food and the value of food, Krishna can still provide as much or as little. Mother Nature can provide as much or as little as she likes, isn't it? So that's why Prabhupada, as it was mentioned earlier, refers to this kind of mentality as atheistic. This is actually atheistic mentality, to deny that God is providing us these wonderful resources, to take those resources and manipulate the system is very atheistic, very demonic. And when we read about, these demons of Vrindavan, mystical personalities who can turn into snakes and birds and various different creatures, we think, it's very, very magical and fairy story-like. And of course, we don't see that in our day-to-day life, but the mentality, the mentality behind the personality is the same today, although they don't have such powers. The idea that they're trying to control and manipulate Krishna's natural order. Anyone else would like to comment or any thoughts on this? Questions?
Haribo, I just got one more. I was just rereading the beginning, and I was just wondering whether this is maybe also another interpretation. Is like the grass, trees, and other vegetation look very green, so perhaps that's sort of representative of Vrindavan. And then sometimes the grass is covered, and also our sort of humble self, or as humble as a blade of grass, is covered by a certain kind of red insect. And to me, just like red insect, it doesn't scare me, but it's not a nice thing. It's not sort of attracted to me. So perhaps that's like Maya, the elusive energy. And then like for me anyway in life, when things are looking too rosy, then I know that Maya's at work. I'm learning that now. And then when things are sort of level-headed and like quiet, then I'm like, okay, I'm working with Krishna, like with Guru Dev, etc. So I don't know, I thought that might be another way to look at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can have insights in this. So yeah, amazing. Thinking of like the jiva, the soul, belongs to the spiritual world, being covered over by Maya, right? Yeah. Or even if that just made me think of another one too, about how when we go to Vrindavan, we don't necessarily see Krishna standing there playing a flute, because we are just seeing the covering of Vrindavan. We're just seeing the external. But actually, Krishna is always in Vrindavan. All the residents are there in Vrindavan. we don't necessarily see them with the material eyes because they're spiritual. We have to have spiritual vision to see. Premanjana Charita, it's called.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I heard the other day that something I didn't know is that when raindrops fall, that's new souls coming onto the earth.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it's a different topic, but
Yeah.
we can discuss it a little bit. So the way that nature works. So Indra is the king of the heavenly planets. He sends the rain. And actually, the people who have depleted all their good karma in the heavenly planets, they have to come back down to earth again. So it's a cycle. The material world is a cycle, samsara. Like a Ferris wheel. What goes up must come down. So souls are going up and down in all the planetary systems all the time. And so this is Indra's way of sending those who are in the heavens back down to earth again through the body of the raindrops. So then the rain enters into the ground, and then that goes into feeding the seeds and the plants, and then the jiva, the soul, which is there, takes shelter of the plant body, and then from a plant, someone eats the plant, an animal or whatever, and then it evolves. That soul moves along.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's not necessarily new soul, because our philosophy is that there are no new souls. All the souls are eternal, but they're just simply moving from one place to another in this.
So it's really imperative to get back to Godhead, because you can go to a heavenly planet and then have to start off again as a raindrop.
Yeah. Most insignificant thing like the raindrop. Yeah. So let's continue reading then, unless anyone wants to raise any points. Yeah. Prabhu, would you like to read one more paragraph, please?
During the rainy season, all living entities in the land, sky, and water become very much refreshed, exactly like one who engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. We have practical experience of this, and our students of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Before becoming students, they were dirty looking, although they had naturally beautiful personal features. Due to having no information of Krishna consciousness, they appeared very dirty and wretched. Since they had taken to Krishna consciousness, their health has improved, and by their following the rules and regulations, their bodily luster has increased. When they are dressed with saffron-colored cloth, with tilaka on their foreheads and beads in their hands and on their necks, they look exactly as if they had come directly from Vaikuntha.
Okay. Any thoughts on this one? What's the comparison we made here? Someone who's not yet spoken would like to share? So what's the second part of the comparison? Yeah. Who is nature being compared against? You can see Apurva is like just eager to say something. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say a little comment, like.
Go ahead. Okay.
I've personally battled with a sense of identity, and to be able to wear the tilak, to me, it's just like I only really like my face if it's got tilak on it. Like, it's just given me like a complete perfect sense of identity. It's like, finally, like, this is it. Like, this is who I am. So I just say that, yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
Amazing. So you have personal experience of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like, just going through life and not having Krishna consciousness. Just felt lost,
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come to Krishna consciousness, you just feel I don't know if the word's mentioned here, but you just feel revitalized. Yeah. These are
Like
things
a
which
cloak coming
little
off.
Lanisha here is just like, it's so natural growing up as a devotee.
I just wondered, you know, the dirt that they've mentioned, the dirt that's mentioned in the paragraph, is that metaphorically the dirt surrounding the soul? And so once you become Krishna conscious, it says the dirt, the layer of dirt becomes thinner by the day as your devotion increases, and the more beautiful you look, and then that's where the tilak and the rest of the external paraphernalia adds to the beauty of being a devotee.
Yeah, can be that way as well. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is soul deep, so we're covered in so much other consciousness as well. Yeah. So sarva upadi vinirmuktam tat prekvena nirmalam. So Krishna consciousness is all about becoming nirmal, or becoming pure. So removing all these other upadis, it's called, removing other impurities or different identities that we have. As Apurva Mataji said, you know, just like when we put tilak on, we have a sense of identity. I know who I am now. So that's a subtle thing as well as a physical thing. So subtly, we have regained that sense of identity, and physically, we're identifying ourselves in that way by putting on the tilak and so on. Yeah, but also very like physically as well. Prabhupada says here, like health has improved. You know, even things like that. Because if we're living an impure life, naturally, spiritually, mentally, physically, socially, in so many ways, emotionally, we suffer in different ways. So Prabhupada is giving us the complete package in ISKCON, isn't it? Okay. So very lucky, Linisha, to have started your life with Krishna consciousness. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes, Prabhu, we're all very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to read next?
Yeah. Okay, Prabhu. In the rainy season, when the rivers swell and rush to the oceans and seas, they appear to agitate the ocean. Similarly, if a person who is engaged in the mystic yoga process is not very much advanced in spiritual life, he can become agitated by the sex impulse. Although during the rainy season the high mountains are splashed by torrents of rain, they do not change. Similarly, a person who is advanced in Krishna consciousness, even if put into difficulties, is not embarrassed. A person who is spiritually advanced accepts any adverse condition of life as the mercy of the Lord, and thus he is completely eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom.
All right. So what comparison can we take from this paragraph? So what element of nature is being compared here? These are for shy. I know many of you can see the answer.
The rivers and the seas.
Yes, rivers and seas. So what happens between the rivers and the seas? What happens to the rivers?
They go into they rush to the oceans and seas.
Yes, that's right. So rivers and they rush into oceans and seas. So it looks like the ocean is being agitated. Yeah. So has anyone seen anything like that before that can explain what that even means? Maybe it's a little bit difficult to conceptualize unless you live near Brighton or somewhere like that.
I can try. I think it's when the river comes in a very high sort of not a steady flow, a very high flow, and it crushes into the ocean water, and it's just like, you know, two things crushing at each other or banging at each other, so it just gets agitated like that. If you see, like, you know, the pictures of the Ganga and Yamuna and the Triveni Sangam, when they get together, I mean, these three rivers, when they get together, the flow is such a high tide, it just like crashes together. That's my understanding. It just gets crushed and agitated. So this is talking about nature, and I'm not sure if this is right, but I was my understanding from this paragraph would be like, you know, if somebody is practicing not devotional service but mystic yoga or something like that, and if they are becoming yogis or something like that, rather than become devotional person, but become more sort of ascetic yogi, if something materialistic comes to their way, they would get agitated. But if you are practicing bhakti yoga, devotional service, because you're even if something comes in your path, you wouldn't get agitated, because it's like, you know, your mind and your heart and everything is towards devotional service, where with the other practitioner, you are forcing your mind and your heart to give up the materialistic things, and sometimes if something comes across, it might get agitated. I'm not sure if this is good comparison, but that's what I was understanding.
Yeah, so that's right. So you see with like rivers when they merge together. So for those who just joined us, we're in the 20th chapter, descriptions of autumn in the Krishna book. And the paragraph we're reading starts with in the rainy season when rivers swell and rush. So yeah, we're just discussing how we see, like, you know, there's like when two rivers come together, there's like a lot of foam and a lot of pressure, and you know that white water rafting type image comes in the mind, you know, like high speed water creates a lot of pressure in the atmosphere. So these are like material desires, or like the sex impulse, as Prabhupada puts it down to. Material desires, they distract one from the spiritual path. So Prabhupada is making a distinction here between the bhakti yogi and other forms of yoga, mystic yoga, Ashtanga, and such like. And we see like across the world in modern times as well as previous times. There's so many scandals, you know, that happen in the yoga field, you know. People, they become very, very prominent very, very quickly in yoga, and then, you know, some scandal is revealed, you know, that they, you know, done some abusive things or whatever, and you know the reputation just goes crashing down. Now one might say that even in Krishna consciousness that can happen. You know, the ISKCON society has also had its share of, like, you know, difficult history. But Prabhupada says that there's no real adversity in the process of bhakti yoga, because one doesn't have to necessarily be a sannyasi, one doesn't have to be renounced. One can be a family person, be Krishna conscious, one can be in any stage of life, one can be Krishna conscious. There's no restriction as such. So that's compared to torrents of rain splashing on a mountain. So the Krishna conscious person is like a strong mountain, and the rainfall, even if it's very heavy, doesn't affect the mountain, right? Does anyone else have any thoughts on this paragraph?
Try something, Prabhu. Just the first part of the paragraph, it just reminds me of the Varnashram. The whole paragraph actually reminds me of the Varnashram system you taught us about. That in Kali Yuga, the sannyas stage, people should be very careful. I mean, it's not even recommended because people are not able to attain the absolute sannyas state in Kali Yuga. And then that's where the mind gets agitated and wants to return to the materialistic way of life. And so the stage of samadhi, which is the absolute peace, is very difficult to attain. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so this does allude to Varnashram, because in the Varnashram system, you can practice Krishna consciousness, you can practice Bhakti Yoga at any stage. Whereas in other systems, that progress in spiritual life doesn't start till much later, it doesn't start till sannyas. And it's just simply following. So Prabhupada makes a distinction, actually scriptures make a distinction, that there is Varnashram in the more ordinary sense, going through different stages of life, student life to household life to retired life and then renunciation. That's an ordinary Varnashram, but in Krishna consciousness we have what's called as Devi Varnashram, which means a divine social order, because every stage of life there's contact with divinity, there's contact with Krishna. So having that makes the greatest difference in spiritual life. It makes one strong like a mountain. All right, so would you like to read again now, Lanisha?
In the rainy season, some of the roads are not frequently used, and they become covered with long grasses. These roads are exactly like a Brahmana, who is not accustomed to studying and practicing the reformatory methods of the Vedic injunctions. He becomes covered with the long grasses of Maya. In that condition, forgetful of his constitutional nature, he forgets his position of eternal service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by being deviated by the seasonal overgrowth of long grasses created by Maya. A person identifies himself with the Mayic production and succumbs to illusion, forgetting his spiritual life.
Okay. Any thoughts on this paragraph now? What comparisons have been made here?
Brahmana, who is not used to studying and practicing the Vedas, is compared to the roads in the rainy season that are not used frequently and get covered by long grasses.
Okay. And why is that comparison made? That's correct. So you picked out exactly the point here. And why is that comparison? Why is that similar? What are the roads compared to? And what is the grass compared to? So Prabhupada says that seasonal overgrowth of long grasses compared to.
Hare Krishna. I just reminded me of the neural pathways. there's a concept in, I think it's psychology, that when you have sort of neural pathways, that it's like that's how we create our habits, and it's very difficult to redirect our neural pathways. So it's similar that in the rainy season the roads are not frequently used, so then they become covered up with grass. In the same way that if we don't practice a good habit, we lose the like if you track down if you pat down a track of road, we lose that. It's sort of we lose the ease of it, essentially, because we can walk on that road easier if it's paved.
Let's come back to that in a moment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just I want everyone to make sure. I just want to see everyone's grasp the concept first. So you're 2 steps ahead, which is very good. Did everyone catch the point of what the long grasses represent? I see you're nodding, and Charlie.
Is it?
Archana Mataji?
Yeah, is represented as Maya.
Yes, that's right.
Is that correct?
Yes. So Linisha was saying how these roads, they get
Sachidananda?
Is the video frozen? Is it just for me, or?
No, it's also frozen to me. Yeah.
It's frozen.
Oh, I think you had to log out. Oh.
Mataji, so you're actually talking about fossilized knowledge, isn't it? So things which have been practiced and they are kind of fossilized, so it's very difficult to undo them because of the nature, the neurological nature of being habituated in doing that, and so wanting to do that and being pro towards doing that as opposed to doing something different.
Yeah, and it's a real uphill struggle to establish new pathways and clear those pathways. Yeah, well worth doing. But yeah, absolutely, that's the point. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Haribol. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, did I cut out there or did everyone cut out? I'm not sure.
No, you cut out.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure why that happened. So where were we? So yeah, Apurva, you were explaining your point as well about the neural system.
Yeah, Panchali and I were just saying. I don't know if Panchali wants to say her point again. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Well, my understanding is that it's like fossilized knowledge, so something which is it's very difficult to undo it because you're so habituated to it. It's difficult to undo something. It is like, as the name suggests, it's fossilized. So wanting to or an attempt to want to do something different would take an added or an extra effort to do. So it's not, it wouldn't be as easy as you know, your natural propensity, because that is towards something which you are habituated to do every day. And that's where your nervous system is habituated. So they would do that automatically, whereas something completely different, that would take an effort and practice prior to you become used to the new practice.
Yeah. Amazing. There's so many examples that can come out of this, right? We can think about it in our own lives in different ways. we can relate to philosophy. So we all have so many realizations, different realizations. So yeah, thank you for sharing, both of you.
So may I
All
ask
right. Yes.
what's the sort of exact definition of a brahmana? What does that mean?
A brahmana is basically someone of the intellectual class, or like a priestly kind of person. So the duties of a brahmana is to perform sacrifices, to give in charity, to accept charity and to give in charity, and also to teach scripture and to study scripture.
Wow.
Yeah. So these are the duties of the brahmana. So it says here that if they don't perform their duties, like studying, like practicing reformatory methods, for example, doing sacrifice, then they get covered in Maya. But the same can be said for anybody, really, whether someone's a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, whatever type of nature basically one has, whatever type of psychology one has. Then if they don't perform the duties which correspond to their nature, then they get covered in illusion. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, my realization is like it's not only effects to Brahmana, which is said, it's just example as used as a Brahmana, but it's for us as well, practicing devotees and all that. If we don't practice our sadhana regularly and do now and then the Maya will catch us up. And then we'll be just, oh, it's okay, I can't do today, I'll do it tomorrow. But then slowly you lose interest in your sadhana and regular practicing. So that's similar to the grass growing on it and covers us. Am I right? I mean, my understanding? So we can be diverted to our material life then in the end, that just lose interest on your spiritual life. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, it's gone. Chinnan is having problems, I think.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Sorry about that. Not sure what's wrong. If I do cut out, just feel free to carry on.
Okay.
Shall we move on to the next paragraph? I'm not sure what I missed. So who's the next reader?
Big one.
I've lost the chat in my chat box. Who's the next reader?
It's me, Prabhu.
Okay. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. During the rainy season, lightning appears in one group of clouds and then immediately in another group of clouds. This phenomenon is compared to a lusty woman who does not fix her mind on one man. A cloud is compared to a qualified person because it pours rain and gives sustenance to many people. A man who is qualified similarly gives sustenance to many living creatures, such as family members or many workers in business. Unfortunately, his whole life can be disturbed by a wife who divorces him. When the husband is disturbed, the whole family is ruined. The children are dispersed or the business is closed, and everything is affected. It is therefore recommended that a woman desiring to advance in Krishna consciousness live peacefully with her husband, and that the couple not separate under any condition. The husband and wife should control sex indulgence and concentrate their minds on Krishna consciousness, so their life may be successful. After all, in the material world, a man requires a woman and a woman requires a man. When they are combined, they should live peacefully in Krishna consciousness and should not be restless like the lightning flashing from the one group of clouds to another.
So very sanguine advice Prabhupada gives here to any ordinary family situation, yeah, and how families can stay together. So what is the comparison made here? I would also say, add to this that, I think it works both ways. So Prabhupada is giving the example from one point of view of a lusty woman who disturbs the husband, but then equally it could be the other way around, that there's a lusty man who's disturbing his chaste wife. So so how is this comparison made?
The lightnings in the clouds moving from one cloud to another cloud.
Is like the
Well, what you just previously said. Here it's said like is compared to a lusty woman who does not fix her mind on one man. But as you said, it could be the other way around as well.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, so we see that, right? Like, have you seen lightning before? And it just scatters itself across the sky, right? Yeah.
It's
So
like
any lusty
flittish.
person has that effect, It doesn't stay in one place. The person moves from one person to another partner, and this disturbs not just that family, but the family life of others also. Yeah. So not only that cloud is affected, or that little bubble, or that family, but then so many other families are disturbed. So I was thinking now, you see, the government is trying to apply a similar sort of principle, isn't it, with this lockdowns and social distancing, isn't it? If there's a disease going around, then the thing to do is try and restrict one to the household, see, so that the spread doesn't happen as much, to slow down the spread of virus. Yeah? But they don't give that type of education in the modern world of how to have like a very sattvic or a very peaceful family life. So on one level, on a very physical health level, we're in a pandemic, but the whole world is under this pandemic of lust, and there's nothing that is given as a remedy to that. So therefore, we see in society so many breakdowns in relationships for this reason. But Krishna consciousness gives the solution, isn't it? So with Krishna consciousness, what does Prabhupada say you can do?
Live in peace and not be restless.
Okay, and how is that?
By not separating under any condition, limiting sexual indulgence, and concentrating their minds on serving Krishna.
Yeah. So there's a positive added in that. In spiritual life, we're not trying to take anything away. Krishna consciousness is not about removing things away from your life. Krishna consciousness is about adding something more into your life, something which is more fulfilling, something to aim higher for. So Prabhupada is saying that that last sentence which you read, what did you? I can't seem to find it right now. So is it something like fix the mind on Krishna?
Yeah, it's at the top
Concentrate.
of the, yeah.
Concentrate their
Oh,
minds
their
on
minds on Krishna consciousness. Yeah, that I added the serving Krishna part because that to me would be serving Krishna because I realized that Krishna consciousness is not the same as serving Krishna. We really need to focus on serving Krishna. That's where it's at. It's not. Krishna consciousness is broad and it's beautiful and it can be sort of adapted and it can be like hippified. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm Krishna conscious. Like, you know, I just go with the ebb and flow. That's not okay. Like, it's got to be, you've got to serve Krishna. It's all about serving Krishna and making him happy. And I'd share this, but I've been watching Little Krishna and like my heart, oh my God, like, that show has given me so much perspective into Krishna's personality. Wow. So I highly recommend it to anyone. Yeah, it's precious.
Yeah, it's a great addition to society, isn't it? Bring these movies into like the mainstream. Certainly in India, it's very much a mainstream thing. Krishna movies. Yeah, so like you said, so being really conscious of what we do, you know. So when Prabhupada, he translates Bhakti Yoga in a slightly different way to the way we see Bhakti Yoga translated, but perhaps in other places. Prabhupada says that Bhakti Yoga means devotional service. Devotional service. Devotional service has two words. Not only that we do the service, just do it, get it done, you know, get the arti done, get the cooking done, get the, you know, the garlands made, get it done. But actually, you know, bring with you the consciousness of serving Krishna, bring with you the devotional spirit. And so in family life, it can be very conducive to having that consciousness because we can help one another, we can help each other remember Krishna. And help each other by discussing about Krishna, reading about Krishna, you know. So it actually becomes the other way around. It becomes there's something we both as a couple and or as a family, as children, even sometimes the children, you know, they naturally have more Krishna consciousness because that's all they know. And then they can very easily make an environment Krishna conscious. Even if you're coming back from work and you just had a real stressful day, and the children will, you know, just naturally engage you in something in Krishna consciousness. You know? I see Sharmarani Mataji's agreement there.
Yeah, it's so true. I was just thinking as well, reflecting on that. And also, I think, I don't know if I've read it or one of the Maharaj or maybe it's Prabhupada's, but I think there's quite a few times it's been mentioned as well that it's so important to have you know, once a week at least the family sit together and have a kind of a sangha. So I think it shows that to keep it all kind of a unit, isn't it, all together, and then we can all focus and we can all be like can kind of really focus on Krishna consciousness, on Krishna, as Mataji said, and you know, then we are all together kind of, so that really helps with this kind of a situation.
Yeah, definitely. All in it together. Anyone else like to share? I'd like to hear from Madhvi Mataji personally, because I know she has many years of experience.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's as Shamarani said, that if the family does everything together, and especially when the parents does it and makes children to understand why they're doing and what they're doing and keeps them with them every time they're doing, they would follow it. And then don't have to think that as children grows up, they become ahead sometimes. They know more than we do. They know more technology, they get more news. So we accept their things as well, that what they're saying. And as in our men's group now, I'm finding that young children, they are like somewhere from different worlds. So I said, they must have done really well. Maybe if they've gone to really high position, like in their spiritual life, and they come back into that family, as it says that you always take next birth. If your spiritual life is then, and if you leave it halfway, whatever reason, you die, you take the next birth into an aristocratic family or devotee family, and they grow. So in a young age, they know what they're doing. The first thing now I see small children, when they first one, before it was like mom, dad, but now they get Prabhupada. They're just so attracted to Prabhupada that so that they must be on the shelter of Prabhupada before and all that. So actually, parents are the one who have to go through that, show their example. If we show the examples, then they do learn that way. So yeah, and being family together, we have to keep. Yeah, it's as you said, it's vice versa. Both are responsible. Not one partner is responsible. Both partners are responsible. And when you do it together, it's happiness is there, and any sort of situation comes in your path, you are just like in a mountain. Doesn't matter, rainfall smashes you, but you are strong in your devotional service, and you'll carry on. So, okay, Krishna is there. No one's there for me, but Krishna is there. So you don't get diverted.
Wow, thanks so much for sharing that, Mataji.
Okay.
Anyone else have any thoughts or comments, questions, additions, subtractions? Not that I want to ask you to do mathematics. Okay, so we have one.
Hare Krishna, sorry, I've got one question. Is
Okay.
it advised in the scriptures to bear children in the Kali Yuga? Because I'm just on the fence, because if I wasn't Krishna conscious, I probably wouldn't have children, because I just think it just looks quite horrible from what I've seen. I mean, if you ask people, they say, oh, it's definitely the best thing that happened to me. But I feel like somewhere inside they're like, oh, it was a bit tough, a little bit of regret maybe. But I feel like Krishna conscious, or any sort of God-centered children are more inspiring. So it's like, what's the sort of advice during the Kali Yuga? Because are we, what? Yeah.
Very nice question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I hand this over to the mothers.
Yeah.
More appropriate.
I think I can say that it would be, from my point of view, it would be advisable, if that's asking, to have children. If you have Krishna conscious children, had my children, but I had a very deep desire that my kids, I wasn't aware of Krishna consciousness at the time, but I had a very deep desire that, my kids become God conscious. And it did happen. So that deep desire was there. And now I'm seeing that I've got 2 grandchildren, and looking at them too, I quite often think they're more advanced than me. As Madhvi Mataji was saying, that, these children who are born in devotee families, they seem to have come up from their previous life spirituality, which is coming into it. And when I see both the grandchildren, I always think that, how much more they know. They pick up the sloks. They can't read. Janva, she can't read, but, she knows a lot more than what I know with the scriptures. So it's just nice to have children reminding us about Krishna conscious, because, when they're doing it so innocently, it's the purity is there. The purity of spirituality is there. It's just like us. It teaches us that this is the way we should be more pure, to become more Krishna conscious, because their heart and their soul is so innocent. And whatever they say, I'm sure Krishna is accepting it. Whatever service they give it to Krishna, they surely Krishna is accepting it. So it is a lot more to learn from our children when they're Krishna conscious children, and how I would say how the pure bhakti is coming out of their heart. So you can learn how even Prabhupada says, crying out for Krishna like the little children. So I'm just thinking that, it's nice to have Krishna conscious children. I'm learning a lot from my grandchildren. I mean, like when Giri was only 3 years old, we had a really nice program at our house, and he wasn't even able to read. And he sat down on the Vyasas and he told the whole story about Gajendra, a 3-year-old telling a whole story about Gajendra's pastime. So
All
you
the
can
details.
see
Yeah.
how, yeah.
Yeah.
So the brahmachari came from Chopati temple. He was so impressed, and he said, look at the children these days, how innocently they can present Krishna consciousness. So it's a lot to learn from the little children, because they coming from their previous life with that devotion they left. The same thing with Chandra. I find it like quite often she just tells things and you think, oh, really?
Wow, yeah.
I think, Mataji, you made such a lovely point actually, to have the faith and it's amazing what you just said, but I think you actually really given a really good an example that, you as a parent and then your children kind of being a Krishna conscious and now their children. So it shows, isn't it, that it's kind of a tree that the trunk is so strong, and kind of the branches and then the leaves, and now you can, that's really amazing. And you said it so nicely. Amazing. But I think the very good point I've taken, that you have to have that desire that you want your children to be Krishna conscious, and then you have to leave it on Krishna. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Really amazing.
Try.
My 5-year-old nephew can actually remember long Sanskrit shlokas, which nobody, no adult in the family can remember. So it's just amazing. So it just goes to show what Mataji was talking about as well, about bringing into the family, so that when the kids are born, they probably bring things from their previous lives as well. So starting from where they left off earlier in their previous lives. So otherwise, I can see no reason as to someone who's only learning how to properly string a sentence together, learning really long Sanskrit shlokas, and who don't even have, any Indian who have English as their first language. So they don't even speak the Indian language properly. So it's really amazing.
Thank you so much, because that was the complete opposite of what I thought. I thought that it would be like I would be limiting my offspring's knowledge through my limited knowledge, whereas actually it's the opposite. I'd be learning so much. That's really, really beautiful. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm just telling you, I've got a son who's got special need, and he actually is teaching us so much. I mean, it's amazing how much we're learning from him. It's, if he's got special need, it's very hard to teach him. So he's actually just learning from others. It's amazing, from the devotees, or, whenever we go to the temple or we go to the lots of retreats, it's amazing. And then whenever we go on retreat, we notice one thing, that he actually asks the question, and we think, oh my God, as a parent, that, oh, because he's got special need, we don't know what, and he's just so related to the topic. And we think, how does he know this? And then all the Maharajas answer him so nicely. And they actually quite a few times said it. But as Mataji said that earlier, that they comes with, I think this is what I think, that they do come with the bhakti, because it's that to their past life. but it's just amazing. And then they just learn from you and from the others. The kids are just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I just echo some of the points I made. With material life, you don't generally learn something so deep, so insightful from the children. Of course, children can come back from school and they can tell you some fun facts or something, you know. But generally, with young children, you know, with Krishna conscious children, they're telling you something, as my mom said, like quite innocently, but there's that depth, you know, there's that sincerity, and that's very inspiring. Yeah. So material life and spiritual life, when children teach, it's a very different thing. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's also to do with karma, right? Because people who don't have children, like myself, so there's a tie now. There's no tie anymore. For like, when it's karma, like your previous life, you will find somebody who will come into your life who will either be nice to you or not nice to you. So you were meant to maybe you know, like you were meant to interact with one another because of your past lives. So in this life, there's no children. So somebody said, well, you don't have any more. You wiped it, I don't know, I've wiped out other people in my life. I don't know.
Yeah, so the point from this particular text is just one simple example. But of course, in our lives and in the world, karma is a very complicated subject, isn't it? So everyone's situation is different. How karma acts in everyone's situation is different. You know, just like a diamond. Diamond has many, many facets, isn't it? Huh? You've seen maybe pictures of diamonds, you know, they have many, many faces.
Yeah.
Huh? Now, like that, pure soul has so many different facets and aspects of the personality. But those different aspects are covered. Diamonds are found in the dirt, aren't they? Where they're found? They're found in the what do you call that? Mines, you know, diamond mine. They're found in the ground, in caves, basically, you know. So we are like that. We are like covered over, different, and everyone has a different. Everyone has a different face which is covered, or a different side which is covered. Some people, their karma is affecting them in one way of life, one area of life. And other people is affecting in another area of life. Some people are affected by children with good karma, with bad karma. Some people are affected with their partner or their work or their different aspects. So, but certainly everyone is here because of karma, and it affects us all in different ways. But Krishna consciousness is so beautiful because it doesn't matter who we are and what our karma is. We have a very simple process to eradicate any unwanted things in our life. So there's hope for everyone in Krishna consciousness. This is a really amazing thing. And it's very easy as well for anyone to progress. Because what someone does on day one in Krishna consciousness is the same thing they do in, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So all of the karmas get removed. The good karmas and the bad karmas. Yeah?
Sorry if I deviated a bit.
No problem at all. This is really it's a sangha, so we're having a discussion together. So,
yeah, thank you. Because there's lots of different aspects. You know, it's all very well wanting children, but then it might be your karma not to have them. So, yeah.
Sometimes you think it's unfortunate because that child would have been a Krishna conscious child, hopefully. But if it's not meant to be, then it's not meant to be. But at the same time, you learn from other people and you learn from other children who are Krishna conscious when you come across them. And you think that they are actually devotees have come from, because they've been devotees maybe in their past life, they've actually are in a devotee family now. And yeah, there's I guess, two sides of a coin, maybe.
Yeah, so there's this life, that's one perspective. And then there's our eternal self, which has an eternal life, and that's the broader perspective. So regardless of what the situation is in this life, we're simply making the best of a bad bargain, you know. We just have a short life here, you know. For some people, we see the problems, other people, we don't see the problems. But definitely everyone has problems in this day and age, in the Kali Yuga. Guaranteed. No one comes into... Even these children now, they have great Krishna conscious beginning, but certainly there's going to be some challenges because they've come in this world with a great Krishna conscious background, but also some karma which has meant they've come back to this world. So the greater perspective is that, you know, we're just simply trying to do the best we can in this world and move on to the Krishna conscious world, move into the spiritual world, Vrindavan with Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Satyanarayan. As Mataji said, if you don't have a children in this life, that's because of past life. But same time, my understanding is you got opportunities to serve the Lord Krishna, in his baby form and establish the good relationship as a mother and child.
Did you hear that, Mataji?
I did. That is a very, actually, when he said that, yes, there are times when I do look at baby Krishna, and I not often, I do sometimes think that he will be the one who will deliver me. So yeah, I look at him as my son.
Yeah.
I observe him as my son, which I don't. So hopefully one day I will.
Many times I've been to India and I see like ladies, even little girls, they walk around with like a Bal Gopal. Everywhere they go, they're holding this Bal Gopal, you know? And they sit down to eat, they put him on their knee and they do their things, you know? And they get up and they're carrying him around from place to place, on the bus, walking on the street, wherever they're going, whatever they're doing, they're carrying their child with them. Even young girls, like I've seen it, it's amazing. You know, they have developed that mood of serving Krishna in that way.
Prabhuji, I tie a Rakhi to Krishna because my name is another name for Draupadi, and so I treat Krishna as my brothers. Every Rakhi, I tie a Rakhi to Krishna at the temple and also at home. So, so yes, I see Krishna in all different forms, in all. You know, he's my father, my brother, my mother, my grandfather, as he says in the Gita himself. But when Rakhi comes, he is just my brother, and so I tie him Rakhi.
I'd like to share one thing. This is relating to Mataji not having any children and lamenting on that. In our own family, Prabhu's sister, one of the youngest sisters, she didn't have any children. And she loved children, but she didn't have any children. So she had a Bal Gopal, and we said, serve Bal Gopal as your child. And she was doing that all.
She was following Swaminarayan.
She was following Swaminarayan, but due to us, she kept it Gopal. But then Bal Gopal has a child, every day bathing. Just like you, I used to bathe my son, my daughter in a kitchen tub sometime, you know. And then she was doing that. It was just immense love she had. It was natural that should be doing this way sometimes with the proper bath. And she was giving a bath different ways and all that. Then her husband passed away, so then she had only that, and depending on that, we in Mumbai. And then on the phone we were teaching now, and then she came here once, and we just made her that, okay, you do your puja, but actually Krishna is supreme, and you should chant Maha Mantra, because she was restless and all that. So, and then she started chanting Maha Mantra and doing that. She felt much peaceful. So when she was leaving her body, 10 days before that body, she always used to call us, but 10 days before, she used to call me at my work and probably at the shop, and kept on ringing, just saying that. Then I told her about 4 days before she passed away, I said, I feel that something is wrong, something you want to tell us, but you're not telling. You're ringing both of us and trying, but no. Please open yourself and tell whatever you want to tell. And he said, I'm just now thinking, if I leave this body, who is going to look after my Gopal, my baby? You know, so much. And then I said, what is in your mind? You tell who you want to look after your Gopal. So then that day she didn't say. The next day she called me back and she said, Bhavi, I would like you, because you are Krishna conscious in that, and you are serving your Gopal so nicely. Can you serve my Gopal as well? And I said, you are in Mumbai, I'm here in UK. So you just tell him, you make your arrangements where you want to go when I leave this body. And he will make his arrangements. The arrangement was made so nicely that when she left her body, she wasn't ill for much, nothing. But Prabhu's nephew went there for holiday, and he was there when she got sick, and he was there at last time. So then she left her body, didn't say anything. And as soon as we got the news, my daughter said, Radhika, Mom, my nephew rang, and he was coming back. Said, Mom, tell him to get the Gopal here. So I just said, he said, and they were saying, anything you need here, anybody else in the family, they were thinking, because he has to clear the flat and all that. So I said, no, I don't need anything, just bring the Gopal. And he brought the Gopal. And I served for a long time. And now he's at Shamaran, he's gone. Because she wanted a Gopal to do. So I said, okay, I've got 2 Gopal. You are like my daughter and sister. You take him, and I know you'll take care of him very nicely. So, you know, that's what happens. Krishna takes care of you. And she really, when she passed away, she was so happy and everything.
Amazing. What a wonderful story. So we are up to time now.
Sorry.
I hope that was fulfilling for everybody. Yeah, it's a very nice discussion at the end here. It just reminds me of this point, actually. Prabhupada says, if you make a place for Krishna in your home, then when you leave this world, Krishna will make a place for you in his home.
Wow.
Yeah? So something we can all try and do. It's a very wonderful example of that story, huh? We're all actually lacking love. We've all got this hole in the heart. You know? We're all looking for that relationship in the heart, but it's actually a God-sized hole. And we're trying to fill it with so many other types of relationships, and it's never fulfilling. But until you put Krishna in the heart, you put God in that God-shaped hole in the heart, then you feel very fulfilled. And then everything feels complete. Everything is connected to that. So make a home for Krishna. Krishna will bring you into his home as well. So I don't know how everybody's feeling now for time. A little bit over time, but I'm conscious we're also just in holiday season now. So if there's no real pressure, then we can all stay on for a little longer. We'll chant. How are you feeling about that? Anyone have an urgent need to go?
I'm quite happy to chant, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Anyone else?